Hi, this is William Pauley III, and I've been invited to do a virtual reading here at KrallCon. I guess the first annual KrallCon. Maybe I'll attend next year and do some sort of reading in person. This year, it just wasn't in the cards. But anyway, I've been invited to do this this virtual reading for all of you. So welcome to KrallCon, and hope you all are having the weirdest time of your lives. I'm sure you are. I've spent a couple weekends with Jordan Krall and Josh Myers as well, and I'm sure a few of you that are going to be there this weekend. And a weird weekend is, well, that's one way to put it. So anyway, I'm going to read this short story here. This story is actually featured in Sex Dwarf, which you all should have gotten a copy of this weekend. Unless Jordan just took the money and ran, which he does that sometimes. Not really. But anyway, hopefully you all got the book, and if you did, then this story is in it. And I'm sorry that I'm spoiling it, but I'm going to read it. I just want to. So anyway, this is Hypnagogia. And yes, in case you're wondering, I am in my bathroom. It's the only room in the entire house that has light that picks up on the camcorder. Okay, so here we go. This is Hypnagogia. There's radiation in the walls of our apartment building. Well, at least that's what Buzz tells me. Buzz has been around these parts since the 60s, longer than I've even been alive. He lives in a section of the building called the Cliff. He says everyone calls it that because there have been so many murders and suicides on his floor over the years. The Cliff, like the end, the edge, and all the people who have gone over. Really, there have been murders and suicides all up and down this building, but it's just the Cliffs are more memorable, I guess. Someone blows himself or someone else away every couple of weeks here. It's just that kind of place. That's why Buzz swears there's radiation in the walls, making everyone crazy. Our building sits in a part of town where there aren't even streetlights. The people around us, they pretend that we don't exist, out of sight, out of mind. We're scum to them, the armpit of town, surrounded by darkness. And that's fine with us. We know our role and we play the part just fine. The people on the outside call us the trolls of 8th Block, 8th Block being the section of town that we live in. But that's where they're wrong. See, us people of the 8th Block Tower, we don't exist in the same sense that everyone on the outside exists. We live by our own code, our own laws, and even have our own god. Sheik, our god, has a skin the color of Neptune. She feasts on dark matter. See, dark matter is abundant in our universe, but not so much here on Earth. See, that's where Buzz and I come in. We're the ones that feed her. But I'll get to that in a minute. The people here rarely ever leave the building, even just to get fresh air, exercise, or a change of scenery. Nothing. They just sit on their couches and watch color bars illuminating from their TV screens, all slack-jawed and comfy. A faint low hum projects from the television speakers, and this hum pleases us, calms us. I can't say what it is, but something about it is just so soothing, like a baby listening to his mother's heartbeat. It lulls us. On any given day, at any given time of day, anyone could walk into any of these apartments here, and I guarantee that a television is on squealing. See, people here on the 8th Block don't have jobs in the same sense that outsiders have jobs neither. All jobs around here are more like chores than anything. We've all got something to do around here, something to pull our own weight. See, Charlie is usually the one that goes out and gets the mail. Sansa goes out and gets the chips and the booze. And Samantha, well, she makes sure that the shit pipes don't back up. See, Charlie and Sansa are the only two that ever really leave the building on a regular basis. I heard when they go out, people are afraid of them. The outsider is no resident of 8th Block without even having to hear them speak. There's a certain glow that we all have that gives us away. Buzz says the glow comes from the radiation in the walls. Buzz is always talking about the radiation in the walls. 8th Block has been around close to a full-on century now. Ever since the day it was built, it's been a home for the weird, the odd, and the mutated. Buzz swears that the Madsen family, who originally lived here in one of the apartments on the cliff many, many years ago, weren't mutants when they first moved in. He says it's the radiation that got them. Everyone on the outside says us mutants have all been banished, forced to live within the walls of this tower, but honestly, I don't pay them any mind. See, I don't, because nobody from the outside ever moves into the apartments here on 8th block. No one from the outside ever comes in, and except for a handful of us running errands, we never really leave the building either. So how is it that we've been banished here? It's not a prison cell, it's our home. Our families have all been here for several generations now, and well, I try not to get too worked up when I hear someone accusing me of being a mutant. I mean, if being a mutant is a crime, then I'm guilty as sin. If 8th block is my punishment, then I hope I rot in here. I love it. There's nothing on the outside but fuck, and I don't need fuck. Well, at least not in this sense of the word. I've got everything I need right here in this building. Buzz and I only leave when we go fishing. See, even then, we don't actually leave. See, once a week, Buzz and I stand on the rooftop of 8th block tower, have us a few beers, and fire up the shop vac. We screw all the hose extension accessories to each other, and we take turns holding the end of the hose as far up as we can into the night sky. We hold the hose up for hours on end some nights, waiting for the vac bag to fill up with dark matter. Sometimes it only takes us about 45 minutes or so to get a full bag, but most nights it takes hours. See, we call this process fishing, well, not because it's anything like fishing really, but just because we have to call it something. And fishing just sort of works. See, Buzz says we call it fishing because our brains are warped from the radiation in the walls. We don't know any better. When we filled up the vac bag full of dark matter, we finish what's left of our beers and we head back into the building. Usually I'm the one that has to lug around the vac down the long hallways and the many sets of staircases that lead to Sheik's room. See, Buzz always offers to help, but also reminds me that his arms are too mutated from the radiation in the walls to really be of any use. Which is true. Buzz's arms look just like tree branches, but leafless, of course. He can't bend his elbows, and his fingers are long and twiggy. Once we get down to Sheik's room to feed her, we always find her lying on the floor, deflating, close to death. Buzz and I quickly attach the hose of the shop vac to her intake valve, and we throw the machine into reverse. The vac then begins to blow all the dark matter out of the bag and into her body, and she begins to plump up again. Once she's eaten all she can handle, Buzz and I toss the vac aside, crawl on top of her, and sleep the rest of the night away, cuddled on top of our god. See, Buzz says that Sheik isn't really a god, just an inflatable mattress. He says we only think she's a god because of all the radiation in the walls. When he says stuff like that, I secretly pray to Sheik, begging her not to annihilate him as we sleep. I try explaining to her that Buzz is a little crazy because of all the radiation in the walls. I'm not sure that she hears my prayers, but so far she hasn't annihilated anyone, so well, that has to mean something, right? Alright, so one time, Buzz and I were fishing on the roof. We got too drunk and accidentally woke up God from his deep slumber. Not our God, Sheik, but the God, the creator of the universe. See, I'd warned Buzz about the way he was holding the shop vac hose, that he wasn't going to get any dark matter at the angle he had it pointed. Buzz grew cross at me and he started complaining about how much holding up the hose was hurting his shoulders, as if his shoulders were mutated too. I called him out on it. He said that if he had elbows, then it would help alleviate some of the stress that was put on his shoulders. He's always full of excuses, though. If it isn't the radiation getting him down, it's his mutation, and his mutation is caused by his radiation, and he's always telling me, reminding me, pounding it into my head, that it's all but his fault. Buzz is a great guy and all, but sometimes I'm just not in the mood to hear him complain. Plus, I was drinking a lot that night, so that probably added a bit to my frustration, too. Anyway, so there Buzz was, holding the shop vac like some crazy son of a bitch, pointing it every which way but up. I started yelling at him, and he started yelling back. Next thing I knew, the hose sucked up a big chunk of something. I think it may have been a big fat bird, a pigeon, or something. Anyway, it got stuck about halfway down the hose, causing the vac bag to fill up with air and nearly explode all over the place. Buzz started screaming, actually full-on screaming, thinking that the dark matter was going to escape the vac bag and swallow us whole. I was half sure the vac bag didn't have any dark matter in it just because of the dumbass way he insisted on holding the hose, but just to be sure, I hurriedly threw the vac into reverse, and the bird shot out of the hose like a bullet from a gun. See, that's when we heard it. The voice of God. He was speaking to us from the heavens above. That goddamn bird shot through the sky and plowed its way through the windows of heaven, ruining everything for us down here on earth. Well, at least that's what I thought at the time. Anyway, to make matters worse, I then began to think of all of the... I began to think of all the dark matter that we had harvested from the night sky in order to feed a God of our own, in a heaven of our own, here in the 8th block tower. Let's see, what if the dark matter was really God's gray matter? I began to panic, thinking of a time when Sansa from apartment 1B showed me a picture of the universe and compared it to a picture of a brain cell. The two were nearly identical. She was trying to convince me that there was a real God out there, outside our world, not referring to the deflating blue one that lived down the hall. She thinks that not only is there a God, but all of us in the entire universe is living inside it, inside its mind. She said that we don't all exist in the way we think we exist, and that God doesn't exist in the way we think it exists. At the time, it all seemed too confusing for me, and I left the conversation feeling bummed I couldn't understand something a girl could understand. At the time, I just wrote it off to the radiation in the walls, but now, after the bird shot from the hose straight through the brains of God, I began to understand all the information Sansa was trying to teach me so long ago. If the universe's dark matter was really God's gray matter, then that means that Buzz and I have been secretly stealing the brains of the Almighty as he was sleeping and feeding it to our air mattress for nearly a decade now. And that made me feel horrible. God grumbled immediately after we inadvertently shot him with a pigeon, and when he finally spoke, he said, "Ah, God damn it, you two fucks. I was trying to sleep, and you guys shot me with a bird right in the head. What the fuck's that about?" Okay, so I'm paraphrasing here. I don't remember exactly what he said or how he said it, but this is pretty close, I think. Okay, so Buzz and I nearly shit ourselves. We were so scared. I began to sip at my beer faster now, thinking it was probably going to be the last one that I would ever drink. And that's when he struck me down. God pulled out a bolt of lightning from his quiver and shot it down to earth, landing right here on the roof of 8th Block Tower. Or more specifically, right on me. Electricity surged throughout my body. My muscles stiffened and engorged with blood, and once I absorbed all the electricity, all of God's wrath, I collapsed. Buzz, thinking I was dead, pulled out 2 AK-47s. He carried these guns everywhere he went. And he hurled a barrage of bullets into the night sky in hopes that it would be enough to kill the giant bastard. Dead birds began falling from the sky in ridiculous numbers, smacking against the roof of our building, surrounding us, and even falling and filling the streets below us. Buzz tells me that once he finally ran out of ammunition, the war was over. God was either dead or unconscious again. Well, he says that now, but immediately after I regained consciousness, he told me that he hadn't woken up God at all, that we had actually shot the pigeon through the window of an apartment in the tower across the street, and the voice we heard belonged to the angry tenant. Buzz said we only thought it was God because of the radiation in the walls. He says it's poisoned us, made us to where we can't think right anymore. When we talk about that night now, though, he doesn't remember it the way he originally told me when I came to. He swears up and down that it was God that brought the hammer down on us, and he's told everyone in the building that he killed God, that he was evil, and that we should all thank him for his heroics and his bravery. Buzz says we owe him our lives. I think there must be more radiation in the walls in his apartment than the rest of the building. He may or may not have killed somebody that night. We may never know for sure. Anyway, whatever and however it happened, Life would eventually resume exactly as we had always lived it. Luckily for me, God, if it was our God, didn't deliver the final blow that day. But I knew sometime soon my number would be up. And I never stopped thinking about it, even today. One day God is going to get his revenge on me, and when he gets revenge, he fucking cleans house. I won't have a chance. Until then, Buzz and I choose to live our lives in the comfort of our home in the 8th block tower, surrounded by weirdos and freakazoids just like us, who choose to live life the way that we want to live it. Sleeping on our God, and eating all the rotisserie pigeon that we can stand. The radiation from the walls continues to soak into our skin, and we glow happily and beautifully until the moment we all step down into our graves. Thank you, and have a really fucking crazy weekend.